The conference hall on Kepler's 7th station stretched wide and tall, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Ambassador Lisa Grant stood at the speaker's podium, her hands resting gently on the smooth surface. She had given speeches like this hundreds of times before. Today felt no different than any other day. The border dispute between the Kryn Empire and the Zorvath Collective can be resolved peacefully, Lisa said, her voice calm and steady. Both sides have legitimate concerns. Both sides deserve to be heard. Violence is not the answer. The Kryn ambassador sat in his seat, his thick arms crossed over his chest. His species looked almost like giant lizards with scales that shimmered green and black under the station lights. He made a sound that might have been a laugh. Humans always talk about peace, the Kryn ambassador said. You have been doing this for 100 years. Talk, talk, talk. You build homes. You grow food. You teach children. But you never fight. The galaxy knows this about you. Lisa smiled patiently. She had heard words like this many times before. We choose not to fight because fighting destroys more than it creates. We learned this lesson long ago on our own world. We share this wisdom freely. The council members nodded. They liked hearing Lisa speak. Humans were good at finding solutions without war. This made them valuable to the council. Far from the station, the ESS Horizon moved through space like a sleeping giant. The colony ship was enormous, nearly 3 miles long. Inside its metal walls, 10,000 humans lived and worked. They were families with children. They were scientists with dreams. They were builders ready to start fresh on a new world. Commander Jake Peterson walked through the ship's main corridor. People smiled and waved at him as he passed. A young girl ran up to him and showed him a drawing she made. It was a picture of New Terra, the planet they would soon call home. That's beautiful, Sophie, Jake said, kneeling down to her level. Is that the house you want to build there? The girl nodded excitedly. With a big garden? Mom says we can grow real vegetables, not the recycled ones. Jake smiled and ruffled her hair. You'll have the biggest garden on the whole planet. I promise. He continued walking, but his smile faded as he reached the bridge. His second officer, Lieutenant Amy Brooks, stood at the navigation console. She looked up as he entered. We're making good time, Commander, Amy said. We should reach New Terra in 48 hours. Jake nodded and sat in his command chair. He looked out at the stars through the main view screen. The horizon was lightly armed, as all human ships were required to be. The Council had made rules about this a century ago. Humans agreed because they wanted to be part of the galactic community. They wanted to prove they were peaceful. Sometimes Jake wondered what it would be like if things were different. But he pushed those thoughts away. Peace was better than war. His grandparents told him stories about old Earth, about the terrible wars humans fought against each other. Those days were gone now. Humanity had changed. On Earth, director Helen Morris walked through the Global Archive building. Holographic displays floated all around her, showing images from human history. Ancient pyramids rose from Egyptian sands. Renaissance paintings glowed with color and life. She stopped in front of a display showing the signing of the United Earth Charter, the document that united all of humanity under one peaceful government. It's beautiful, isn't it? Chris Bailey said, walking up beside her. He was young, only 25, and he worked as her assistant. His eyes shined with pride as he looked at the displays. It is? Helen agreed. This is what we want other species to see when they think of humanity. Art, culture, wisdom, not weapons or war, Chris nodded. The Kryn don't seem to understand that. I heard about Ambassador Grant's speech today. The Kryn ambassador was dismissive again. Helen sighed. The Kryn are a warrior culture. They measure strength in weapons and battles. They think because we choose peace we are weak. They don't understand that choosing peace when you could choose war is the greatest strength of all. They continued walking through the archive. Helen's badge gave her access to restricted areas, places where most people never went. She stopped in front of a large vault door. It was made of metal so thick that nothing could break through it. On the door, a single word was written in letters 2 feet tall. Remember, what's in there? Chris asked. Helen looked at the door for a long moment before answering. History. The parts we don't like to talk about anymore. Back on Kepler 7 station, the council session was ending. Lisa gathered her papers and prepared to leave. She had done well today. The council agreed to send mediators to the Kryn and Zorvath border regions. Maybe this would prevent a war. As she walked toward the exit, the Kryn ambassador blocked her path. He was much taller than her, and he looked down with eyes that seemed to burn with anger. "You think you are so wise, human," he said quietly, so only she could hear. "You think your words can stop everything, but words are just air. Power is what matters. Strength is what matters. One day you will learn this." Lisa met his gaze without fear. "If that day comes, Ambassador, I hope you remember this conversation. I hope you remember that we had a choice." The Kryn ambassador snorted and walked away. Lisa felt a cold feeling in her chest, but she pushed it aside. She had work to do. The next morning, everything changed. Jake was eating breakfast in the Horizon's mess hall when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. He dropped his fork and ran toward the bridge. Amy was already there, her face pale as she stared at the screen. "Commander, we're receiving distress signals," she said, her voice shaking. "Multiple signals. From New Terra." Jake's heart felt like ice. "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made him stop breathing. New Terra was burning. Fires covered half the planet. In orbit above it, Kryn warships fired their weapons again and again. Human defense satellites exploded like fireworks. The colony on the surface, home to 5 million people, was being destroyed. "Get me a channel to New Terra," Jake ordered. "Anyone down there?" Static filled the bridge. Then a voice came through, broken and weak. "This is New Terra Control. We are under attack." The Kryn came without warning. "They're destroying everything. Our weapons are too weak. We can't stop them. Please, someone help us." Then silence. Amy turned to Jake, tears running down her face. "What do we do?" Jake stood frozen. His ship carried 10,000 civilians. Children like Sophie with her drawings, families dreaming of gardens and homes. He couldn't take them into a battle. But he couldn't run away either. Before he could answer, another message came through. This one was from Eden Station, another human colony, then another from Prometheus Base, all saying the same thing. Under attack. Kryn warships. No help coming. In minutes, 3 human colonies went silent forever. 40 million people died. On Earth, General Paul Henderson stood in the Global Defense Command Center. He was 60 years old and thought he would never see war in his lifetime. Now screens all around him showed death and fire. His hands shook as he read the casualty reports. "They hit us everywhere at once," his aide said. 3 colonies gone. Maybe more. The Kryn fleet is massive. Paul felt like he was drowning. "Activate the defense network. Send our ships to protect Earth and the remaining colonies." "Sir, our ships are colony vessels and cargo haulers. We don't have warships." Paul closed his eyes. 100 years of peace had made humanity soft. No, not soft, careful, restrained. They had weapons, but they were old and hidden away. The Council made them promise. He opened his eyes and looked at the red button on his command console. The button that hadn't been pressed in 90 years. His hand moved toward it, then stopped. On Kepler 7th Station, Lisa ran toward the Council chambers. She had to make them help. She had to make them see. But when she arrived, she found the doors locked. The Council was already in session, and they hadn't invited her. She waited outside for 3 hours. When the doors finally opened, the Council leader emerged. He was a tall being made of what looked like flowing light. "We have voted," the Council leader said. "We will not intervene in the conflict between humanity and the Kryn Empire." Lisa felt the words hit her like a physical blow. "You're abandoning us?" They attacked without cause. They murdered 40 million people. The vote is final. This is an internal matter. Lisa stood alone in the empty hallway after they all left. Her communication device buzzed. A message from Earth from Helen Morris. It was short. Just one sentence that made Lisa's blood run cold. "Protocol Omega has been authorized. Now they see what we really are." Jake stood on the bridge of the Horizon, staring at the empty space where New Terra used to shine. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. 10,000 civilians behind him needed protection. But 40 million people had just died, and someone had to answer for it. "Amy, change our course," Jake said quietly. She looked confused. "Sir, where are we going?" "Find me the nearest Kryn fleet position." "We're going hunting." Amy's eyes went wide. "Commander, we're a colony ship. We have families on board. Children. We can't fight a Kryn battle group." Jake turned to face her. His expression was calm, but something in his eyes had changed. "This ship is more than you think it is, trust me." "Set the course." Amy hesitated, then nodded. Her fingers moved across the navigation console. "There's a Kryn fleet at the Sigma sector. 20 warships. They're heading toward another human colony. That's our target. All crew to battle stations. Throughout the horizon, alarms began to sound. Families stopped what they were doing. Mothers grabbed their children. Fathers looked worried. They had never heard battle alarms before. Most humans in the galaxy hadn't for 100 years. In the ship's engineering section, Chief Engineer Danny Cohen received the alert. He looked at his team and smiled grimly. Finally, you all know what to do. Begin the transformation sequence. His team moved quickly to hidden control panels. They pressed buttons and pulled levers that most people didn't know existed. Throughout the massive ship, sections began to move. The outer hull started splitting apart, revealing what had been hidden underneath. On Earth, General Paul Henderson's hand finally pressed the red button. Across the planet, facilities that were supposed to be abandoned suddenly came to life. In the Sahara Desert, sand fell away from massive hangar doors. In Siberia, ice cracked as underground bases opened. Near the ruins of Old Manhattan, the ocean water swirled as something enormous rose from the depths. "Sir, the reserve fleet is responding," his aide reported, no longer able to hide the shock in her voice. "We're showing 300 ships coming online. These aren't cargo haulers. These are warships," Paul nodded slowly. "We've been building them in secret for decades. Just in case. The council thought we were constructing cargo vessels and mining ships. They were wrong." On his main screen, human ships emerged from hiding places across the solar system. They looked nothing like the peaceful exploration vessels the galaxy knew. These ships were dark and angular. They were covered in weapons. They were built for one purpose, and peace was not it. "How long until they're ready?" Paul asked. "The fleet will be fully operational in 6 hours. But sir, we don't have trained combat crews for all of them." "Yes, we do. Activate the veteran program." His aide looked confused. "Sir, that program trains people for emergency situations." "They're not real soldiers." Paul smiled without humor. "Every human who volunteers for space duty goes through combat training. We just called it emergency preparedness training. Every cargo pilot knows how to fly a fighter. Every engineer knows how to operate weapon systems. We've been preparing for this day for a century, hoping it would never come. Call them in." Lisa stood in her quarters on Kepler 7 station, watching the news reports flood in. More human colonies under attack. More death. The council refused to help, and some of the members seemed almost pleased that humanity was being punished for growing too strong. Her door chimed. She opened it to find an alien she recognized. Ambassador Talon from the Zorvath Collective. His species looked almost like humans, but with blue skin and larger eyes. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," Talon said quietly. "My government voted against helping you. I argued, but I was overruled." "Why?" Lisa asked. "Why won't anyone help us?" Talon looked around nervously, then stepped inside. "Because they're afraid. Not of the Kryn, of you, of humanity. You've been peaceful for so long, and in that time you've become indispensable. Every species uses human technology. Human medicine saves billions of lives. Human engineers build half the stations in the galaxy. You've made yourselves too valuable, and that terrifies the old powers." Lisa felt her anger rising. "So they're letting the Kryn kill us? To teach us a lesson?" "Some of them think that way. Others believe the Kryn will weaken you, make you dependent on the council for protection." Talon looked at his feet. "I don't agree with any of it, but I thought you should know the truth." After he left, Lisa sat down and opened a secure channel to Earth. Helen Morris's face appeared on the screen. The director of the Global Archive looked older than she had just days ago. "Lisa," Helen said, "I'm glad you're safe." "Helen, what is Protocol Omega?" "Your message said it was authorized." Helen was quiet for a moment. "It's the protocol we hoped we'd never use. Come home, Lisa. You need to see this for yourself. Your work with the Council is done. Now we need you for something else. What's happening on Earth? The truth is coming out, all of it. The history we don't talk about. The capabilities we kept hidden. The side of humanity we tried to bury." Helen's eyes were sad. "We're going to war, Lisa, real war. The kind our great-grandparents fought, and when it's over, the galaxy will never see us the same way again." The horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel, directly in front of the Kryn fleet. The Kryn sensors detected the human ship immediately. To them, it looked like prey walking into a trap. One colony ship against 20 warships. It would be over in minutes. The Kryn fleet commander opened a channel. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately or be destroyed." Jake stood on his bridge, which now looked completely different. Hidden panels had opened, revealing military-grade control stations. Amy and the rest of his crew wore expressions of grim determination. Kryn Fleet, this is Commander Jake Peterson of Earth. You attacked our colonies. You killed our people. You wanted to see humanity fight. Now you will. The Kryn commander laughed. One ship? You are as foolish as you are weak. I said ship. I didn't say it was just one. Jake gave a signal. Throughout the horizon, the transformation completed. The outer hull sections that had split apart now revealed weapons batteries. Missile launchers extended from hidden compartments. The colony sections in the middle of the ship remained protected, but the front and rear had become pure war machines. But that wasn't all. The space around the horizon suddenly filled with smaller ships. Dozens of them, each one deploying from hidden launch bays. They were fighters and bombers, compact and fast. The Kryn fleet hesitated. This wasn't what their intelligence had reported. Human ships weren't supposed to have weapons like this. All ships engage, Jake ordered. The battle began. The horizon moved forward, faster than a ship its size should be able to move. Its weapons fired and Kryn shields started failing. The smaller human fighters swarmed around the enemy warships like angry insects, hitting weak points with precision. Amy coordinated the attack from her station. Fighters focus on their engine sections. Horizon target the command ships. They're trying to flank us, another officer reported. Let them, Jake said. Spring the trap. 2 Kryn warships moved to attack the horizon from the sides. They thought they found an opening. But the colony ship's middle section suddenly opened and more weapons fired out. The Kryn ships exploded in balls of fire. Inside one of the fighters, pilot Kevin Nash pulled hard on his controls. The G-forces crushed him into his seat, but he kept flying. His grandfather told him stories about old Earth fighter pilots, how they trained in conditions that would kill most aliens. Kevin always wondered if those stories were true. Now he knew. He locked onto a Kryn warship and fired missiles. They hit perfectly, tearing through the ship's hull. Kevin whooped in victory. That's for New Terra. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, 15 Kryn ships were destroyed. The other 5 were badly damaged and retreating. The horizon had taken damage too, but nothing critical. Not a single civilian had been hurt. Jake opened a channel to the fleeing Kryn ships. Go back to your empire. Tell them what happened here. Tell them this is just the beginning. We tried to be your friends. We tried to be your teachers. You chose to make us your enemy. Now you'll learn what that means. On Earth, the first wave of the reserve fleet launched. 300 warships rose from the planet and moved into formation. General Paul Henderson watched them go, feeling a weight on his chest. These ships represented everything humanity had tried to leave behind. War, violence, death. But the Kryn had given them no choice. Helen Morris stood in front of the vault door marked, Remember. Chris Bailey stood beside her, confused about why she had called him here. Director, what's going on? The news says we're going to war. Yes, Helen said. She placed her hand on the vault scanner. That's why I need to show you this. The galaxy thinks they know humanity. They think we're peaceful because we're weak. They're about to learn the truth. The vault door opened slowly, revealing a massive room beyond. Inside were holographic displays, weapons, uniforms, and documents. Thousands of them. Maybe millions. What is all this? Chris asked. This is who we really are. This is the history we stopped teaching to the new generations. The wars we fought on Earth. World War I, World War II, the nuclear age, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. 1,000 conflicts across 500 years. Helen walked into the vault, her voice echoing. We weren't always peaceful, Chris. The Kryn Empire had stood for 1,000 years. Their homeworld, Kryn Prime, orbited a red sun at the edge of the galactic arm. For centuries, they had conquered other species, taken their worlds, and enslaved their people. They were the strongest warriors in the galaxy. Everyone feared them, until now. Admiral Jake Peterson stood on the bridge of his flagship. The horizon had been joined by 50 other human warships, all of them revealing weapons that shouldn't exist. His fleet moved through space toward Kryn territory, and every ship they passed gave them a wide berth. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Zorvath Collective, Amy reported. She was now his second in command, wearing the uniform that had been hidden in her locker for years. Put it through. A Zorvath commander appeared on screen. Human ships, you are entering a war zone. We recommend you turn back. Jake smiled coldly. "We are the war zone now. Stay out of our way." The Zorvath ships moved aside. Word was spreading fast. Humanity was no longer asking for permission or offering peace talks. They were bringing destruction to anyone who stood against them. On Earth, General Paul Henderson coordinated the war from the Global Defense Command Center. His screen showed human fleets moving throughout the galaxy. They weren't just defending anymore. They were attacking. "Sir, the Second Fleet has engaged Kryn forces at the Talon Nebula," an officer reported. The Kryn had 30 ships. "We had 12. Casualties? All 30 Kryn ships destroyed. We lost one frigate, but the crew evacuated safely." Paul nodded. The numbers would have been impossible a week ago. But human ships fought differently than anything the galaxy had seen. They used tactics from Earth's ancient wars: flanking maneuvers, false retreats, kamikaze drones that crashed into enemy ships before they could react. "What about the intelligence networks?" Paul asked. "Coming online across the galaxy. Turns out our cultural exchange students weren't just learning alien languages." Paul had to smile at that. For 100 years, humanity had sent students to study on alien worlds. Everyone thought it was about friendship and understanding. And it was, partly. But those students also learned about military installations, government structures, and supply lines. They made friends with the right people. They gained access to secure areas. Now all that information was being used. Human strike teams knew exactly where to hit the Kryn Empire where it hurt most. Captain Ryan Foster led one of those strike teams. His ship, the ESS Vengeance, dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a Kryn supply depot. The depot was supposedly secret, hidden in an asteroid field, but a human student had worked there 5 years ago as part of a cultural exchange. She drew maps. She remembered passwords. She sent it all home just in case. "Go, go, go!" Ryan shouted as his Marines deployed from the landing craft. They wore armor that looked simple, but it was made from materials humanity had been developing in secret. Strong enough to stop Kryn weapons, light enough to move fast. Lieutenant Sarah Kim led the first squad through the depot's corridors. Kryn guards opened fire, but the humans moved like ghosts. They had trained for this. Every human in space service went through combat drills, even though they were called safety training. Now it all made sense. "Place the charges on the fuel reserves," Sarah ordered. Her team moved quickly and efficiently. In 10 minutes, they had sabotaged the entire depot. As they escaped, Sarah triggered the detonator. The depot exploded in a massive fireball that destroyed enough supplies to support a Kryn fleet for 6 months. "Target eliminated," Ryan reported back to command. Moving to the next objective. On Kepler 7 station, Lisa packed her belongings. She was going home. Her time as a diplomat was over. The Council had made their choice, and now humanity was making theirs. As she walked toward the docking bay, she passed other diplomats in the corridors. Some looked at her with fear, others with curiosity, a few with something that might have been respect. The Kryn ambassador blocked her path one final time. He looked different now, less confident. "You lied to us. You made us think you were weak." Lisa stopped and met his eyes. "We never lied. We told you we chose peace. We told you we understood the cost of war. You just assumed that meant we had forgotten how to fight. That was your mistake, not ours. We will destroy you. The Kryn Empire has never been defeated. Yes, you have. You just don't remember it. We studied your history. 3,000 years ago, another species nearly wiped you out. You barely survived. Then you rebuilt and became conquerors, swearing it would never happen again." Lisa stepped closer. "We're not like that species. We're worse, because we don't want to conquer you. We want to teach you the same lesson we learned, and we'll do whatever it takes." She walked away, leaving the Kryn ambassador standing alone. Admiral Peterson's fleet reached the Kryn military outpost at the Ceres Junction. It was a massive station, armed with hundreds of weapons. 50 Kryn warships defended it. Intelligence said it was one of their most important strategic positions. "All ships, combat formation Delta," Jake ordered. "Remember your training." The human fleet split into 3 groups. One group attacked head-on, drawing the Kryn defenders' attention. The second group flanked from above. The third group came from below, using the station's own shadow to hide their approach. The Kryn fought hard. They were good warriors, skilled and brave. But humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They knew every trick, every tactic, every way to turn an enemy's strength into weakness. Fighter pilot Kevin Nash led his squadron through the chaos. Kryn fire filled the space around him, but he flew through it like dancing. His grandfather's stories had been true. Human pilots could handle G-forces that would make most aliens pass out. They could fly maneuvers that seemed impossible. Fox 3 missiles away, Kevin called out. His missiles hit a Kryn cruiser's engines. The ship spun out of control and crashed into another Kryn vessel. The battle lasted an hour. When it ended, the station was destroyed and the Kryn fleet was scattered. Human losses were minimal, but Jake didn't celebrate. He opened a channel to all human ships. Good work, everyone. But remember, this isn't about revenge. This is about survival. The Kryn made a choice and we're showing them the consequences. Stay focused. Stay professional. We're not monsters. We're soldiers doing a terrible job that needs to be done. On Earth, Helen Morris prepared for a broadcast that would change everything. She stood in the Global Archive's main hall, surrounded by holographic displays showing human history. The good parts and the bad parts. Director, we're ready when you are, Chris said. He was running the broadcast equipment. Helen took a deep breath. Transmit on all frequencies. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this. The broadcast began. Helen's face appeared on screens across thousands of worlds. My name is Helen Morris, Director of Earth's Global Archive. I'm speaking to you today because the galaxy needs to understand what humanity really is. She gestured to the displays around her. For a century, we've shown you our best. We've shared our medicine, our technology, our art. We've helped build your stations and mediated your conflicts. We did this because we chose to be better than we were. The displays changed, showing images from Earth's ancient wars. But we haven't always been peaceful. Our history is filled with war. We fought each other for thousands of years. We created weapons that could destroy entire cities. We killed millions of our own people over resources, beliefs, and pride. Helen's voice grew stronger. Then we nearly destroyed ourselves. We built nuclear weapons and came within minutes of using them to end our entire species. We stood at the edge of extinction and looked into that darkness, and we decided to step back. We chose peace, not because we were weak, but because we finally understood the cost of war. The images shifted to show humanity's golden age, space stations, medical breakthroughs, diplomatic successes. We spent a century proving we had changed. We restricted our own weapons. We agreed to council oversight. We wanted so badly to be the species that chose peace even when war might have been easier. Helen's expression hardened. But the Kryn Empire attacked us without warning. They killed 40 million of our people, and the council refused to help. Some of you even approved, thinking we needed to be taught humility. Now the displays showed current events. Human warships destroying Kryn fleets, strike teams sabotaging military bases. So now you see what we really are. We're not peaceful because we don't know how to fight. We're peaceful because we know exactly how to fight, and we know what it costs. The Kryn wanted to see humanity's other side. Now the whole galaxy will witness it. Helen looked directly into the camera. We will win this war. Not because we're cruel or vengeful, but because we're good at war in a way most species can't understand. We've had 500 years of near-constant conflict on our own world. We've developed tactics and strategies that you've never seen, and we've been preparing for this day since we joined the council, hoping it would never come. The broadcast showed footage from the recent battles, Kryn ships exploding, human fighters moving in impossible patterns. But understand this, we don't want to conquer anyone. We don't want an empire. We want peace, real peace, the kind that comes from strength and mutual respect, not from fear and submission. Helen's voice softened slightly. When this war is over, the space between stars had never seen anything like this. 5,000 Kryn warships moved in a formation that stretched across millions of miles. Their emperor had given them one order: destroy humanity completely. No mercy, no survivors. Admiral Jake Peterson watched them come. His fleet of 900 ships looked tiny in comparison. Every tactical computer said this battle was impossible to win. But Jake had studied human history. He knew that impossible battles had been won before. All ships execute Plan Thermopylae, Jake ordered. The name meant something to every human in the fleet. Thermopylae was an ancient battle on Earth, where 300 Spartan warriors held off an army of thousands. They lost that battle, but they bought time and showed that numbers weren't everything. The human fleet didn't try to match the Kryn formation. Instead, they scattered. Small groups of ships moved to different positions, forcing the Kryn to split their attention. Then they attacked from a dozen directions at once. The battle began. Captain Ryan Foster's strike group hit the Kryn left flank. His 6 ships focused all their fire on a single Kryn cruiser, overwhelming its shields in seconds. The cruiser exploded and immediately the human ships darted away before the other Kryn vessels could respond. "That's the tactic," Ryan told his crew. "We can't match their firepower, so we don't try. We hit fast, hit hard, and move before they can retaliate." Fighter pilot Kevin Nash led his squadron through the chaos. The Kryn had fighters too, but they flew in rigid formations. Kevin and his pilots flew like they were dancing, constantly changing direction and speed. The Kryn pilots couldn't keep up. "Remember your training," Kevin called to his squadron. "We're not flying pretty. We're flying to win. Use every advantage." He dove toward a Kryn battleship, flying so close to its hull that its own weapons couldn't target him. He fired missiles directly into their engine ports, then pulled up sharply. The G-force crushed him into his seat, but he had trained for this since childhood. Every human pilot had. The Kryn battleship lost power and drifted helplessly. Kevin's wingman finished it off with a torpedo strike. On Earth, General Henderson watched the battle data flowing in. Human losses were mounting, but the Kryn were losing ships faster. Still, the numbers didn't look good. For every human ship destroyed, they took down 6 Kryn vessels. But there were 5 times as many Kryn ships to begin with. "Sir, the Kryn are pushing toward Sector 7, an officer reported. "If they break through there, they'll have a clear path to Earth." Henderson made a decision. Activate the minefield. For decades, humanity had been placing small satellites throughout their territory. Everyone thought they were navigation beacons or communication relays. They weren't. Each one contained a powerful explosive and could be detonated remotely. Hundreds of Kryn ships pushed into Sector 7. Then the satellites exploded. The blasts tore through the Kryn formation, destroying dozens of ships and damaging hundreds more. The Kryn advance stopped. Admiral Peterson saw the opening. "All ships focus fire on Sector 7. Hit them while they're disorganized." The human fleet converged. Their weapons blazed and the confused Kryn ships fell one after another. Within minutes, the Kryn had lost 300 vessels, but the Kryn Emperor was watching from his flagship. He was furious. "All ships focus on the human flagship. Kill their leader." Suddenly, every Kryn weapon turned toward Jake's ship. The horizon took hit after hit. Shields failed. Hull plating melted. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. "Shields at 10%, Amy reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We can't take much more," Jake smiled grimly. "Then we don't take more. All ships execute Phoenix Protocol." Throughout the human fleet, commanders received the order. Phoenix Protocol was simple and brutal. If your ship was about to be destroyed, you turned it into a weapon. The Horizon's engines went to maximum power. Jake pointed his ship directly at the Kryn Emperor's flagship and accelerated. The massive colony ship, damaged and dying, became a missile. "All crew to escape pods," Jake ordered. "Amy, you too." "Not without you, Admiral." "That's an order, Captain. I need you to lead the fleet when I'm gone." Amy wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. She ran toward the escape pods with the rest of the crew. Behind her, Jake stayed at the helm, guiding the Horizon toward its final target. But General Henderson had been watching. "Jake, abort." "That's an order from Earth Command." "Sorry, General. My communications seem to be malfunctioning." Jake cut the channel. The Kryn Emperor saw the human ship coming. His flagship tried to move, but the Horizon was too fast and too close. At the last second, Jake whispered, "For New Terra," and slammed the Horizon into the Emperor's ship at full speed. The explosion lit up space like a new sun. Both ships were destroyed instantly. The Kryn fleet faltered, their leader dead. Human ships pressed the advantage. But Jake's escape pod had launched at the last possible second. Amy had overridden his command lockout and ejected him by force. When he woke up aboard a rescue ship, she was standing over him. "You're a terrible liar, Admiral. I knew you'd try to stay, so I made sure you couldn't." Jake tried to look angry but couldn't manage it. "You disobeyed a direct order." "Yes, sir." "Court-martial me later. Right now we have a battle to win." The Kryn fleet was in chaos. Without their emperor, different commanders started giving conflicting orders. Some wanted to retreat. Others wanted revenge. The formation fell apart. Lieutenant Sarah Kim's Marine unit boarded a damaged Kryn cruiser. They moved through the corridors quickly, capturing the bridge in minutes. Sarah accessed their computer systems, downloading strategic data. "Command, we've got intelligence on Kryn defensive positions throughout their empire." Sending it now. General Henderson received the data and immediately distributed it to all human fleets. All units, we now have complete maps of Kryn military installations. Begin Operation Sledgehammer. Throughout the galaxy, human strike teams attacked simultaneously. They hit shipyards, supply depots, communication centers, and command posts. The attacks were coordinated perfectly, happening within minutes of each other. The Kryn Empire's military infrastructure began collapsing. On the Kryn homeworld, the emergency government met in their war room. The news was catastrophic. Half their fleet destroyed, their emperor dead, their military network crippled. How did they know where everything was? A general demanded. Our facilities were secret. An intelligence officer spoke quietly. The humans. They've been gathering information for decades. Every cultural exchange, every trade negotiation, every diplomatic visit. They were mapping our entire empire while smiling and talking about peace. The acting leader of the Kryn government understood then. Humanity hadn't been naive. They had been patient. They had prepared for war while hoping it would never come. And now that it had come, the Kryn were learning that hope and preparation weren't weaknesses. They were wisdom. Admiral Peterson, recovered from his injuries, stood on the bridge of his new flagship. The battle was turning. The Kryn fleet was retreating. Human forces were pursuing them back toward Kryn territory. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Kryn homeworld, Amy reported. They want to negotiate. Jake felt tired, so tired. Put them through. A Kryn official appeared on screen. She looked defeated. We wish to discuss terms of surrender. No, Jake said simply. The Kryn official looked confused. No, you're winning. What more do you want? I want you to listen. Really listen. Jake leaned forward. We didn't want this war. We spent a century trying to avoid it. We gave up weapons. We accepted restrictions. We chose peace every single time. And you attacked us anyway because you thought peace meant weakness. We understand that now. Do you? Do you really? Jake's voice was hard. Because I don't think you do. You think we're just better at war than you expected. But that's not the lesson here. The lesson is that we knew how to fight all along. We chose not to. That's the difference between humans and Kryn. You fight because it's all you know. We fight because we have to, but we remember what peace is worth. The Kryn official was quiet for a long moment. What are your terms? Complete disarmament of your military. Human observers in your government for 1 generation. Reparations for the colonies you destroyed. And education programs for your children, teaching them what we learned the hard way on Earth. That peace is not weakness. And strength is not measured only in weapons. That will change our entire culture. Yes, it will. That's the point. Jake's expression softened slightly. We're not here to destroy the Kryn people. We're here to teach you what the galaxy should have taught you 1,000 years ago. War is easy. Peace is hard. And choosing peace when you could choose war is the hardest thing of all. On Earth, Lisa met with representatives from the species that had helped humanity. The Zorvath ambassador was there along with envoys from a dozen smaller civilizations. We want to thank you, Lisa said. You stood with us when the council would not. The Zorvath ambassador nodded. We remembered how humanity helped us during the plague. You sent doctors when others sent prayers. You shared medicine when others shared sympathy. We could not abandon you in your time of need. What happens now? Another envoy asked. Will humanity seek revenge against the council? Lisa thought about that. The anger was still there, burning in her chest. 10 years had passed since the war ended. The galaxy looked different now. So did humanity. Lisa Grant stood in the rebuilt council chambers on Kepler 7 station. The room had been redesigned, made larger and more open. Every species in the galaxy had a representative here now, not just the old powers. The reforms had taken years, but they were finally complete. She was about to give a speech. Her last speech as Earth's representative. After a decade of rebuilding, she was retiring. But first she had something to say. Members of the council, Lisa began, her voice clear and strong. 10 years ago, this institution failed. When humanity needed help, you voted to do nothing. Some of you actively supported our destruction. You abandoned your principles because you were afraid of us. The chamber was silent. Many of the old council members were gone now, replaced by new leaders. But everyone remembered what happened. We could have destroyed you for that failure, Lisa continued. After we defeated the Kryn, We had the strongest military in the galaxy. We could have conquered half the known worlds if we wanted to, but we didn't. We chose differently. Again, she gestured to the representatives around her. Instead, we helped you build something better. We helped reform this council into what it should have been from the beginning. A true alliance of equals, not a club for the powerful. We shared our technology. We trained your peacekeepers. We healed old wounds throughout the galaxy. Lisa paused, making sure every being in the room was listening. But we also did something else. We made sure you would never forget what happened. We made sure everyone knows that humanity chooses peace, but we are capable of war. We don't threaten. We don't bully. But we never again accept terms that leave us defenseless. She looked at the spot where the Kryn representative sat. It was a young Kryn female named Kira, part of the new generation that grew up under human guidance. Ambassador Kira, would you like to share how your people have changed? Kira stood, her scales shimmering under the lights. She looked different from the Kryn of old. Less aggressive, more thoughtful. The Kryn Empire is gone. In its place we have the Kryn Republic. We elected our first civilian government 5 years ago. Our children learn about cooperation instead of conquest. We build instead of destroy. She looked directly at Lisa. This change was hard. Many of my people resisted. They saw human oversight as humiliation. But over time we learned what humanity tried to teach us. Strength isn't just about weapons. True power comes from choosing peace when you could choose war. Kira sat down. Lisa nodded in appreciation. This is Earth's final message to the galaxy. We wanted peace a century ago. We tried to show you through our actions. You didn't listen. So we showed you through war. Now we've shown you through reconstruction. We pray this is the last lesson we ever have to teach. The council members stood and applauded. It wasn't just polite applause. It was genuine respect. Humanity had earned it through blood and sacrifice and mercy. On Earth, Admiral Jake Peterson walked through a memorial garden. Stone walls displayed the names of every human who died in the war. 7,000 crew members, 53 million civilians. Each name was carved carefully, preserved forever. He stopped at one wall section. These were the names from the horizon. His original crew before the ship became a warship, before everything changed. He touched the name of a young girl, Sophie Martinez. She had shown him a drawing once of the garden she wanted to build on New Terra. Amy walked up beside him. She was a general now, commander of Earth's defense forces. You still come here every week. Someone should remember them. Really remember them, not just their names. Jake turned to face her. We won the war, but they lost everything. They didn't die for nothing. Look at what we built. Jake looked around the garden. It was beautiful. Full of flowers from Earth and from a dozen other worlds. The Zorvath had donated plants. Even the Kryn sent seeds as part of their reparations, I know. But sometimes I wonder if we could have found another way. If I had been smarter or faster or better. Amy put her hand on his shoulder. You saved billions of lives. You stopped the Kryn from destroying everything humanity built. And then you helped them rebuild into something better. You did everything right. Then why does it still hurt? Because you're human. We remember. We feel. That's what makes us different. We can fight like demons when we must, but we never forget the cost. That's why we choose peace. Captain Ryan Foster was on the Kryn homeworld, overseeing the last stages of reconstruction. The cities had been rebuilt. The economy was stable. Human observers were being gradually withdrawn as the Kryn proved they could govern themselves peacefully. He walked through a school where Kryn children learned a new curriculum. One young student approached him nervously. Excuse me, sir. Are you one of the humans from the war? Ryan knelt down to the child's level. Yes, I am. Did you kill many Kryn? The question hurt, but Ryan answered honestly. Yes, I did what I had to do to protect my people, and I've regretted every death since. Then why did you come back? Why help us after we attacked you? Ryan thought about how to explain this to a child. Because war isn't about hate. It's about survival. We didn't hate the Kryn. We just needed to stop you from hurting us. Once you stopped, we wanted to help you become better. That's what peace means. The child thought about this. My teacher says humans are the strongest warriors in the galaxy. Because you choose not to fight. I didn't understand that before. It's hard to understand. It took humans thousands of years to learn it ourselves. Ryan stood up. But you're learning it young. That gives me hope. On Kepler 7 station, Lisa met with Helen Morris one last time before retiring. Helen had stepped down as director of the Global Archive, but still advised the government on cultural matters. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Lisa asked. "Opening the Remember Vault? Teaching everyone about our violent past?" Helen nodded. "Yes, hiding our history was a mistake. It made us seem naive, like we didn't understand conflict. Now everyone knows the truth. We understand war better than almost any species. We just chose to be better than our history. Some of the younger humans are angry. They think we were too merciful to the Kryn. They wanted revenge, not reconstruction." "Every generation struggles with this," Helen said. "The veterans of the war understand. They saw what violence costs. But young people who didn't experience it only see the glory and victory. That's why we must keep teaching. Keep remembering. Keep showing them what war really means." Lisa looked out at the stars through the station window. "I'm tired, Helen. I've spent 40 years in diplomacy. First convincing the galaxy we were peaceful, then convincing them we were strong, now convincing them we can be both. I don't know if I have the energy anymore." "Then rest. You've earned it. Others will carry on the work." Kevin Nash had become an instructor at Earth's Flight Academy. He taught young pilots the skills they would hopefully never need to use in combat. His students were eager and skilled, but they lacked something important. They hadn't faced real death. "Listen carefully," Kevin told his class. "You're learning combat maneuvers because humanity must always be ready to defend itself. But these skills are a last resort. Every time I had to use them in actual combat, someone died. Sometimes my enemies, sometimes my friends. War isn't glorious. It's necessary sometimes, but it's never glorious." One student raised her hand. "Sir, the history books say you destroyed 23 Kryn ships personally. Doesn't that make you a hero?" Kevin's expression darkened. "It makes me a killer who had no choice. I did what I had to do to protect my people. I'm grateful we won, but I see those Kryn faces in my dreams sometimes. They were just following orders, like I was. War made enemies of us, but we were all just people trying to survive." He looked at each student. "If I'm teaching you correctly, none of you will ever have to fire a weapon in anger. That's what I'm working toward. A galaxy where these skills are only taught for emergency, never needed in practice." Lieutenant Sarah Kim had left the military and become a teacher on the Kryn homeworld. She taught Kryn students about human culture and history, helping them understand the species that had defeated them, and then helped them rebuild. One day, a student asked her the question she knew would come eventually. "Why did humans forgive us? We killed millions of your people." Sarah thought carefully before answering. "We didn't forgive you. Not completely. That would be dishonest. What we did was choose to look forward instead of backward. We decided that punishing you forever would just create more hate, more violence. So we decided to help you change instead." "But how? How do you not hate us?" "Some humans do hate the Kryn. They lost family and friends in the war. That's natural. But most of us understand something important. You weren't born evil. Your culture taught you that conquest was honorable. Our job was to teach you something different, to show you that cooperation is stronger than conquest." The student looked thoughtful. "Do you think we can really change?" "Some Kryn say we should return to our old ways, that we were stronger then." "You were more aggressive then," Sarah corrected, "but not stronger. Real strength is building a civilization that lasts, not one that conquers and burns. You're stronger now than you've ever been." On Earth, General Paul Henderson gave his final address before retirement.